Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Warhammer 40k Iceberg, Part 3. I know it's a little bit different setup, and I know it's been a while, but let's go ahead and get into it. Tier 3 Abominable Intelligence. Alright, Abominable Intelligence is just another name for AI they use to refer to said AI in the dark age of technology. Pretty much that's it. It's just a different name they say instead of AI. It's just Abominable Intelligence because it's outlawed. And we'll get to that in one of the next entries. Men of Iron. Alright, so Men of Iron is just the troops that the humans used to use, basically. Were the warriors that were powered by the AI, the Abominable Intelligence, if you will. They were basically the foot soldiers that did all the, shooty shooty bang bang that they needed them to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just the Men of Iron, just their troops. I'll throw up some pictures so you guys can kind of see what they're about. The Dark Age of Technology. Wait, so the Dark Age of so the Dark Age of Technology was just an area between the 15th and 25th millennium of mankind, and basically back at that time, it wasn't looked so bad upon. It wasn't called the Dark Age of Technology at the time, obviously, because it's kind of when humans were at their peak, when they were doing more damage and were just more powerful than any other race in pretty much in the galaxy at that point. But things kind of got a little iffy near the end, especially because the Men of Iron, which we talked about before, rose up and eventually kind of had a civil war with humanity, if you could call it that. Basically, just killing humans because they've been, slaves to them. Basically any AI uprising you've seen from any other media before. But yeah, it ended around the 25th millennium, around the same time that Slanesh was born, and the whole warp went crazy, and then everyone starved because they couldn't use the warp to get food to other planets and stuff. So that's pretty much most of the Dark Age technology. Rosebot uprising, everybody dies, and then bad stuff happens again. So that's basically what happened. Warfield. Okay, so this entry though, Warfield, is basically just a thing that happens to orcs after they, start getting ramped up and ready for war. They kind of work together with their psychic abilities, not intentionally, obviously, but they start working together with that, and it just creates this field of psychic energy that just empowers them and ready to makes them, hype them up, and also lets them know who the biggest and the strongest of them is, so they can pick their leader basically, and who to follow, because the biggest, strongest orc is the boss. So that's basically all work a Warfield is. So all right, let's move on to the next. Gork and Mork. Speaking of the orcs, we're talking about Gork and Mork now. So Gork and Mork are the gods of the orcs, basically. Gork is brutal but cunning, but Mork is cunning but brutal. So that's the difference between them. Is one's brutal but cunning, and one's cunning but brutal. So that's the difference of Gork and Mork. So Gork is more like for it goes more for like smashing you over the head, and uh, Mork prefers to go for like a low blow. Yeah, sometimes the orcs will make their vehicles after them, kind of like looking like them, what they think look like them, I guess. Who knows? It could be what they look like. But they kind of try to, any vehicle you see that kind of looks like an orc, it's either Gork or Mork, basically. Probably Gork, because they probably like to do the full head-on smashing thing. But anyway, that's Gork and Mork. Let's move on to the next. Caiaphas Kane's Supernatural Luck. Okay, so this one's a bit more of a meme in the community than anything. He is a little bit lucky, or you can't say that for sure. But let me give you a little bit of history on Caiaphas before we jump into this. So Caiaphas Kane is an orphan of two guardsmen who got put into basically a special school for the Imperium because of his parents dying in like a brutal way or a very heroic way. Basically, grew up to kind of be an officer, kind of, not really, very simplification of the guardsmen. But anyway, he was kind of a cowardice guy, not like super cowardice. People often exaggerate that aspect of him, but he did start off in like an artillery regiment. Some people say that he did that so he could get away from combat, kind of, and just start shooting them. but he ended up getting ambushed, I believe, by some sneaky Tyranids. And he ended up killing them all and, saving the day. And he is really good at combat and like killing things, really. But people tend to exaggerate the luckiness of him. Some people make it out to be kind of like the Jar Jar Binks of the Warhammer 40k, but it's really not like that. He's really a good fighter and whatnot. He's definitely a little lucky, but not nearly what this is trying to say. So not really that lucky, but that's Caiaphas Cain. Definitely look him up and watch some videos on him. He's pretty cool. On to the next. Joke Rio. Okay, so the Joke Rio, the Joakaro, Jokio. You tell me how I would say it. I can't freaking figure it out. The Jokio are a super intelligent, like orangutans, basically. They are not like naturally evolved, but they are very similar to the ones that are on Earth. Basically, they're just a super intelligent, like weaponsmiths, blacksmiths. They create weapons and stuff, but they were made by the old ones actually back in like 60 million years ago, around the time of the War in Heaven. So that's pretty cool. Not a whole lot known about them, but yeah, they're pretty cool. On to the next. Squat. Okay, so squats are basically your average dwarfs in any fantasy setting, but in space. Haha. Now, technically, the squats are kind of outdated. I'm not sure if they're still were a thing in lore. Basically, they got wiped out in the 41st millennium. But Games Workshop brought back new ones. They're called Votons, but they're just dwarves. So I'm a little iffy on if the squats are still canon or whatnot. But we're going to talk about them anyway. So the origin of the squats are actually, they were derived from humans. So back around the 25th millennia, when the warp went crazy and warp travel became impossible, they kind of got stranded, and they were basic humans, but they were basically living on a planet that had heavy gravity, or like a system that had heavy gravity. I'm not sure. Over time, eventually, they just evolved to be kind of shorter and stockier, and then they had their own separate history that went on for a while. So again, I'm still not sure if they're canon at all or what, but definitely look into them. They're kind of cool. But anyway, on to the next. Crocs. So these crocs or crorks or whatever they're called are basically just the ancestors of the orcs we know today, which were made by the old ones, again around the time of the War in Heaven, about 60 million years ago. So yeah, basically they're just the ancestors of the orcs who were super smart, but something happened along the way to, dumb them down, just per se. But yeah, anyway, look into them. They're cool. On the next. Wall powers made Yarick immortal. Okay, so we have another officer of the guardsmen, Yarick, which is kind of the same thing as Caiaphas Cain, but he's got a different story. So Yarick was a war hero, again, kind of like Caiaphas, not as big though, not as good of a warrior, but he was really good at fighting orcs. He had this whole campaign in, I believe, the world called Hades or something, fighting orcs, like Grayskull. If you might have heard of him if you looked into orcs at all. But basically, he was really good at fighting orcs and leading his men against them, to where he kind of became a legend against the orcs themselves. And some people think that this would lead the orcs to believe in he's a really good warrior or something. And that might help him a little bit when he's fighting, but the way that the War Field works now in current canon, it can probably buff him a little bit while he's fighting and stuff, but it doesn't make him immortal. So I don't think this theory has much basis in reality of, Warhammer, but who knows, we'll just go on to the next. Love Can Bloom. Okay, so I really don't know why this is here. Love Can Bloom is a fan fiction written by a fan of Warhammer. It's about, here, let me read this, a Vindicare assassin falling in love with Taladir from the Dawn of War games. Yeah, it's just a fanfic. I'm looking at it here. It's 6 chapters long, and I'm not reading it. So if you want to, go ahead. But I'm doing the basic knowledge, looking into this, and yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So if you want to, good luck. Have fun with that. No, not me. Unreliable narrator. Okay, so this is kind of a theory. It's well based in logic for this series, but the unreliable narrator theory is about because all the books basically come from the Black Library, which is a thing inside the Warhammer 40k universe. So everything goes through basically the Imperium of Man, which has not been known to say bad things about themselves often. So really, I believe that every story that is told in a book, an audiobook, anything that's canon could be misconstrued, basically. Again, it's just unreliable narrator. Basically, don't believe everything you read on it. It could just be made up. But who's to know about this one? So, on to the next. Cypher. Cypher is a fallen angel, aka turned to chaos space marine of the Dark Angel Space Marine chapter. There is basically nothing known about him. He's been chased by the Dark Angels since they've known about his turning, but really there isn't that much known about him, so I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about this, so we're gonna move on to the next one. Unid and the Unari. Okay, so the Unid and the Unari, I believe is how you say it. Again, I don't know, but from what I can tell, the Unari are also known as the Reborn, and they're kind of a religious sect of the Aldari, which are the space elves, so we know. So they're kind of like a cult kind of thing inside of the Aldari, basically. They're their own little group who's kind of related. And the Yanid is the god of the Yanari. So it's basically their god that they worship, and they believe one day, after they collect certain artifacts or something, that they will bring him back, or her back, whatever, and they will and their god will defeat Slanesh, getting their revenge for what happened in the 25th millennium. So that's kind of a very basic breakdown of this, but yeah, that's the Yanid and the Yanari. That's what you need to know. Chaos gods represent mental disorders. Okay, so this is a fan theory. I had to look it up and found it on Reddit. It's this theory that the chaos gods actually represent different mental disorders. I'll give you something. I'll just tell you what the fan theory is so far. So Nurgle is basically depression, just letting yourself go, just living in filth, just letting like filthy thoughts live in your head rent free, and stuff like that. Just letting yourself go, and it affects the people around you. Slanesh is kind of not an exact like pinned down mental disorder, but like things that like letting yourself get into stuff, like overdoing it, like drugs, sex, food, even just stuff like that. Just indulging. Some people are a lot easier. It happens a lot easier to them of getting addicted to these things. Or yeah, so that's just kind of just like overindulgence and like addiction, stuff like that. Just a mental like problem with those. Corn is like stress, the way you respond to stress, and just like violent outbursts and stuff. Some people have issues again with that, with their mental disorders. So they think corn's about, pretty simple. And Zinch is actually interesting. It's like schizophrenia, basically, because everything's always changing. And for Zinch, right? And for schizophrenia, people, see things, and mind just goes crazy a little bit. I'm not a mental health expert, and I have no idea if any of this makes sense at all. But to me, I think it's kind of a cool theory. So yeah, on to the next. Felinids. Okay, next up we have Felinids. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. They are like an abhuman group, basically. They're kind of like people like splice DNA with animals. Basically, there's not a ton known about them. There's a small wiki page about them, but yeah, they're not hugely known about, but they're pretty cool. So if you like furries, I guess, then there you go. Harud. Okay, so next we have the Harud, the Herd. I'm not sure. Again, these things have weird names, or I just don't know English. But these guys are actually pretty cool. They're a xenospecies, very like mysterious. They are known by the Imperium of Man, and it says that they could accelerate aging when they touch someone or something organic, I'm guessing. But I think it's a pretty cool species. There's a few pictures I'll throw up on screen, very few, but they're pretty cool, I guess. So yeah, we'll look into them. Kind of creepy. And next, the Cabal. Okay, so the Cabal are pretty cool. They're basically a organization made up of different species, mainly mankind and Aldari, the elves, that were solely devoted to killing chaos. They were basically an organization, kind of like the Illuminati, basically, of the chaos, fighting chaos. Though it is reported that they were destroyed in the 31st millennia, so around the time of the Horus Heresy or after it, I'm not sure again, but yeah, so they're pretty cool. They ended up becoming enemies of the Eldari for some reason, so that's pretty cool. But just from a quick read of the wiki, it seems pretty cool. But I'll have to do some more research. But yeah, check into them. They're pretty cool. Umbra. Next up, we have the Umbra, which is a very fascinating species to look into. So far, there's not much known about them. That's going to be a common theme as we go deeper into Iceberg. But they're pretty interesting. It says they are a non-humanoid alien species that are intensely hostile to all forms of life. From their design and their autonomy, it looks like. From a distance, it looks like a black sphere to the naked eye, but then it kind of like warps and manipulates itself. I would relate it most likely to like Venom, the symbiote. It kind of looks like just but its like default form is like a black orb. And then it like stretches out, makes weapons out of shadows. Basically, it's a little confusing, but they're pretty cool, honestly. Just looking at them again, I'll have some pictures up, but yeah, that's on to the next. Never mind, there is no next. They just put the felinids twice, so we're not gonna cover that again. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I know this one will probably be a little bit shorter, but it makes it a lot easier on me because editing is definitely the worst part about making these videos. I do a good bit of research making these, so it's kind of fun looking into all this stuff, but sometimes it's just hard to find anything. So forgive me if I missed anything. I did simplify a lot in this video, so it's not entirely accurate. Mostly just to get you into Warhammer, show you some cool things about it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you for watching, and if you want to watch the rest of this video, go ahead. Nothing important to this iceberg, but thanks for sticking around if you did, and have a good one. Okay, so this part of the video is just gonna be some updates, basically, on what I'm doing and where the channel's been. It's been several months since I've uploaded, and as you can see, I have a very different background. I have been moving. I have had zero motivation to work on these videos, even though it was cool to see my last video get to 1,000 views, and it wasn't some stupid like short I made or like some stupid parody song. But it is cool to see something that I made get all those views, which is pretty cool. And I know it's not a lot. You might think, wow, 1,000 views, that's it. But to me, that's actually really cool because like 1,000 people watch that. It's pretty interesting to me. I'm going to experiment with making this one a little bit shorter, and we'll see how that turns out. Maybe YouTube won't like that, but I'm doing more of like a casual setup too, just sitting down in front of the computer, setting up the green screen, getting the lighting set up. I don't have a good camera for that at all, so that doesn't help. And no microphone for it because I've got this one, which is great for sitting here on a mic stand, but not great for walking around holding. But yeah, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, watching, anything, commenting. It's great. I love to hear from you guys. I do like making these videos. It's just sometimes just like, what's the point, you know? And it's just hard to find motivation. When you're working every day, you have a family to take care of, it's just hard to get the motivation to do this as well. And it's very time consuming, so like I spent pretty much all my Saturday making this, and I just haven't had time to play games, do too much with the fam or whatnot, which isn't awful. I do like making these, but it's just hard sometimes, so forgive the upload schedule. I know it's kind of just me whining about this stuff, but it is cool. But yeah, the background we'll be working on and getting it set up differently. I'm gonna put some better stuff on the shelves, kind of just fill it in. Got my drum set up, which is pretty cool. I like let me know if you guys like the neon sign. I think it's pretty dope. But it's a pretty cool setup, and I like doing it a lot more than the green screen. It's a lot easier. So we'll see how editing this video is. So after I finish this iceberg, I really don't know what I want to do for YouTube. If I do, really. But I do want to do something. I like talking about things online, things that interest me. So if you guys have a suggestion of things you want me to talk about or do or whatever, let me know. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you stuck around this far to hear me rant about nothing, basically, you're an OG. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, which hopefully won't be that far away. I'll see you all later. Bye. That's not my thing. I don't do that. Bye.